So, welcome to our fourth and final conversation of the Work Deliciously series, Lucy. I am honored to have you here on this channel and on this podcast. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Lucy's a client of mine who went through my 6-month coaching program, Work Deliciously, and she agreed to be interviewed, generously agreed to be interviewed after each module. So she could share her progress and her discoveries in a way that might benefit other high achieving workaholics in a positive way. And we're also grateful that she's doing that. So in addition to this conversation providing a general reflection of the whole program, this conversation will center around module 4, which was conscious creation. And that's essentially manifestation, ushering our unseen realm, the vision world, into physical reality. So welcome, Lucy. Thank you for being here.
Very nice to be here. The pleasure's all mine, Amanda.
And before we get started on all the work stuff, which I know people are dying to hear, I would like to give you a moment to share anything in general about your upbringing. I think it's very enriching to start conversations like this from the context of who my guests are rather than just what they do, and letting the listeners connect in this way. So is there anything that you want to share about how you were raised and how you came to be who you are?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people probably share this. I am a second generation immigrant, right? So my parents, they immigrated to the United States, and my parents, like they're like rock stars. They came with nothing, with like barely like any English under their belt. And then were like, I remember them telling me stories of them working, like dad was like trying to get an education. Mom was working like 3 or 4 different like odd jobs, trying to like support themselves. And so from the very beginning, they had instilled in me this like work ethic that like, if you can work hard, you can get whatever you want. And that's exactly what they did. And that is where they are. And I remember when I was very young, I actually grew up and went back to China for a little bit, and then like came back to the States when I was like around 5. And then around that time, I remember even seeing the shift. Like at this point, my parents had like the small little apartment. I remember we used boxes to like hold our clothes and everything. We were like very scrappy. And then within the span of like another year or two, like we like upgraded to like this really nice house in a nice neighborhood. Like my parents were really good at working hard, and they were really good at saving and like in budgeting. And so like they ingrained all this stuff into me. And I just remember that when I was little, for me, it was like all about hard work and doing well in school. And I mean, because school was kind of all I knew. And when and like seeing, I was like very impressed with my parents. And so I wanted to be like them. I wanted to work hard like them. And I wanted to make them proud of me. So my life kind of revolved around like getting straight A's and like doing really well in all my extracurriculars and all of that, getting to a great college. And then like, I had this whole plan laid out, like that I had laid out for myself. Like I was going to get into a great college, make good money, and then like give back to my parents. Also, when I was very young, I was bullied a lot. As a matter of fact, my earliest memory was of me being bullied. Like I was born in the States, but I lived in China from ages 2 to 5 because my parents actually couldn't raise me, so they had to actually send me back to be raised by my grandparents for a little bit. And I just remember being bullied a lot as a toddler, and I don't know if it was because I was kind of considered an outsider or what. Like I don't have memories of what's going on. And then when I came to the States, I didn't know English. And so I felt again like an outsider, and I was bullied all the way through elementary school and a little bit into like junior high too, but it got better after that. And I just remember like feeling like I was an outcast with my peers, but the adults really paid attention to me because I was the good student. I was making those straight A's. So I think, so like, what happened was I decided that this was kind of like, this made me. It's like this gave me worth and meaning, and this gave me a sense of connection to other people. I did eventually make friends, of course, and in fact I had a lot of friends when I was like in college, and on the outside everything looked great, but like I never did drop this kind of like hustling and trying to succeed, thinking that that's the way to get people to like me. And then when I graduated, I joined a Microsoft, which was, of course, a pretty prestigious company at the time. I guess still now, but and then everybody, all the adults, everybody was proud of me. And then I worked really hard. And then there was a point where I think while working there, I just got kind of a little emotionally burnt out. Like physically, yes, a little bit, but also like just mentally, emotionally, because I was like, I don't like my job. I mean, I kind of enjoyed the team. I like the people. I enjoyed the problems are interesting to solve, but I really don't like doing this. I realized that I was a software engineer and I didn't like to code. The only reason I became a software engineer is because I could make a lot of money and get into Microsoft. And and I realized like that was kind of like the first inkling that I was just working hard and for the sake of like some external thing that wasn't really true to who I am. And my health started kind of like deteriorating. Like my health has all like I've always been kind of an overweight kid, but then like I kept yo-yoing, I would try to lose weight and gain it back and lose weight and gain it back. And at that point, like my health was kind of just like going a little bit down the drain. And then at that point, I really started, that was the first time I think I started working on my health and my health care, self-care. And then decided to kind of be true to who I am and what I want to do. That's when my business partner now approached me, and we both had this journey where we had to focus on our self-care and our health, and like got we were both overweight and we got fit, and she wanted to kind of do a health or fitness related thing. And that was really something that I was thinking of doing, that because that was a problem that I was like way more passionate about solving, having like been through that journey myself. So we decided to start a business together. And then and it was really great. It gave me a lot of like a big sense of purpose, and I really like enjoyed, like I felt motivated. And but then like I would just physically burn myself out, right? So it was like this repeating theme of just like doing something that was exciting, but then I would kind of like burn myself out somehow. And then that's when I kind of so that's when I stumbled upon you, Amanda. I was like, I'm so sick and tired of just like I feel like I'm like getting closer and closer to doing what I want to do, and yet I keep like burning myself out. And so what's going on here? And like I want to believe that I can have it easy and enjoy what I'm doing, and have love, like of people around me. So like I believe it. I tell other people this all the time. I've like helped a lot of people, with their limiting beliefs, and so I was like, what the heck is going on here? And so that's when I found you and reached out to you.
Oh, yeah. These qualities of hustling and putting the work in and strategizing and planning and going out and taking life. I mean, these are admirable qualities in many ways. Like they can really serve us. And yet, if they aren't balanced with rest and surrender and letting go and self-care, that's when they lead to burnout. So I always say, like, this part of us that has so much drive and so much desire and can overcome challenge and take success, really, that gets to be there. That never has to go away. But how to find another way to be that's a bit softer and smoother and gentler. And that's really the work that I do. It's interesting because many coaches help with that other aspect of that goal setting, and that how do you get from A to B? How do you get there as fast as you can? And I more offer the perspective of how to actually settle into the now, how to soften into the now. And in that, everything will unravel. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. There's some sort of magic in that way of creating too, and in that way of being. And this idea too of like your worthiness or your ability to be loved as a kid was tied in with your ability to perform and to get A's and to be successful. And I think there's many people who could resonate with that story, and that lives deep in the subconscious. And we talk about this a lot in our conversation number 3, I believe. So I am going to link all the conversations below, but that was huge when we shifted that pattern for you and that belief and worked with that.
Yes, yes,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So You came to me and you were like, okay, I'm kind of on this hamster wheel. My body's screaming. I know something's here. I'm on the edge of something. I want to be and exist in a different way. I am a workaholic. I work, work, work. I'm really good at what I do. I'm very successful, yet I'm missing something. So, where are you now? What do you think has changed? And let's start with your belief system first.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to more of the external shifts because there's been quite a few external shifts for you. But what are some of the primary ways that you feel like your belief system over the past several months has changed in regards to how you build success in business and in life?
Yeah. I well, the biggest change for me is reframing from having to work really hard to get something, and reframing that as resting in my being, like being opening up, resting so that I'm able to feel safe and open up my perspective so that I can see the answers show up for me. What is fascinating was that, and really we had to go through, all the other phases before I can get to this point. Stress resilience, which is module 1, which we covered in our first conversation, and then the rest kind of follows after that too. After I was able to train myself to be able to kind of be in that restful being of like not wanting to guess something, being like a little detached from the result, the answers, more often than not, the answers start showing up for me. I didn't have to go and find them, or maybe clues will show up for me. And it could just be a thought that popped in that wouldn't have popped in if I was busy trying to look for it. And sometimes it would show up for me in the form of somebody would tell me. Sometimes I'd go out for a walk and I'd see something happening that would inspire an answer, right? It's like if I were in survival mode, there's no way I would have noticed these things even, right? So I think that was the biggest internal shift that caused a lot of like the external shifts that happen. Another big kind of, I would say like a reframe is that I like the work part, like the structure, right? Like you were talking about when in a lot of other coaching or business coaching type of groups or programs, like they talk about the goal setting, the structure, how to get things, do things efficiently, like the doing part of it, right? And I've always like, there's always a part of me that didn't want to let go of that. And of course, as we worked through it, when we worked together, you told me you don't have to let go of that. One of the biggest reframes that I shifts in perspective that I found is that the structure, the like the goal setting, the structures, the efficiency, the productivity skills, that is there to support my rest and energy. Like that is there to make me feel safe. And when I saw it not as something that competes against me needing to nourish myself, needing to feel rested, but something that actually supports it, I realized that my rest and my energy, that's the first class citizen. The structure around that, it's necessary because it supports that part. And so it works so beautifully together now. And I don't see like I used a lot of the like the goal setting stuff. Like for instance, we'll take that. I would use it, but then like it would eventually make me feel really anxious because I would like rely on it so much and then get so anxious that I can't meet my goals or can't meet a deadline. And that's like, now it's like, if that happens, I'm like, oh no, this is not what your purpose is. Your purpose is actually to support my feeling rested, support my feeling energized, support my feeling inspired. And if that's not happening, you're not doing your job and I'm like using this structure wrong. And so that has kind of also helped me a lot in my day to day, and it's just like the structure and the energy is just working so beautifully together now, I would say.
Yeah, this is such a huge reframe of that part of me they're not competing, they get
Yeah,
to work together.
right.
And if we think they're competing, that part of us that's like, well, I'm a goal setter, I'm an achiever, I follow through, I close, like that part of us is gonna like fight the other part of us. But if we can invite them to work together, that's really where a lot of change happens. And I love the takeaway too of ideas come to me when I'm rested. I don't have to go out and search them because I feel this so strongly. And I talk about this a lot, that often the best ideas will come when we're like in the shower or out watching the sunset on a beautiful, summer day, just like letting the eyes just soak in the golden light, or even like on a drive on a road trip. So this points to the fact that when the brain waves are slower, when there's more rest, that ideas that are really high level, that are really impactful in moving our vision for ourselves forward, those will come into the brain from that relaxed state. You could spend, it could come through just in an instant when you're feeling yummy and delicious and rested, or you can do a series of like several 3-hour brainstorming sessions and just really squeeze it out of the brain, and it wouldn't be nearly as impactful. So having an embodied experience of that for you, that was something I really witnessed you, I don't know,
Yeah.
expanding into and holding and reveling in. So how have these belief systems rippled into your external world? Like, what are some specific ways that your life, personal life maybe, and business have changed over the past 6 months? I know you have a lot of really big ones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, just kind of the day to day, like I would say in my business, it's so funny because from the outside, I'm sure people still see me like as working. Like, I don't know if externally people notice any difference, but I feel like when I am working now, it's like I don't things feel easier even if I'm doing kind of the same amount of work to an outsider is kind of what I would say. What I mean is that decisions are a little easier like for me now to make. I feel like I'm having a lot like a better time communicating with my coworkers. That was kind of a big thing for me. Like I had felt that I had to really struggle to make myself understood to my partner, my business partner, my coworkers, my team. But now it's like even my clients sometime, but now it's just like I trust that the message I put out gets through. And if it doesn't get through, I trust that they will ask me the right questions that I can, such that I can answer them with clarity. So just basically the first external shift is that if you actually see my progress, like if you actually like just look at my day to day kind of like what I churn out, or my week to week what I churn out, I would say the quality has gotten a lot better. In fact, my business partner, this was like a few months into our work together, my business partner was saying that like the quality of like what I did is like a lot like she could like it was a lot better. And she said that out of the blue. It was completely unprompted. And I was like, oh, that's so great. I feel a lot better. That was like the first thing I said in response. And so that's when I kind of, that was like my first sign that like, yeah, something external is shifting. Like my work is just a lot better, but I'm not working harder. Like that's right. That's kind of like, so I didn't feel like I work harder, but somebody is telling me my quality is improving. And so that's really cool. And then just kind of, and it's funny because as soon as we started the conscious creation, that's when a lot of like random external stuff started happening. And like these are all like I remember during module 3, which was all about like releasing, like dealing with your shadows and releasing inner beliefs, I made like an affirmation or assertion to myself like this, that the world is always trying to send me good things. I just need to choose not to block it. Like I just decided that this is just going to be the belief I have about the world going forward, that I'm the one, like that it's not that I need to get good things for myself. I just need to not block it when it's coming to me. And so I decided to like really crank up the relaxingness, right? And while I was so like I took like a 5, or maybe it was like 10, I think it was like a 5 to 10 day vacation. I don't even remember, but I was getting married, right? So this is my wedding, wedding week. And I decided to really let myself relax during this time. And honestly, before then, like even when I took vacations, I would still be like on Slack. I would still be like getting in my team's businesses, like I'd be still working a little bit, even when I'm like away. And this was like one of my first like vacations where it's like I did like the bare minimum. Like like I only responded to things that really needed me, but like the otherwise I wasn't like checking Slack all the time. And I was like just really relaxing. And like on my wedding day was when the YouTube, one of our YouTube videos on our YouTube channel, which is where the main channel that we acquire customers from, that exploded. And it was and the video went out like 2 weeks ago. Right? The video went out 2 weeks ago and it did pretty well, but then it kind of like did the usual YouTube thing and like went well and then kind of flatlined a little bit. But then for whatever reason, on that day, YouTube decided that it was gonna like boost that video. And I have no idea why. I actually have a YouTube coach who also has no idea why. They were just like, well, sometimes YouTube just does random things. So we're like, okay, sure. But it was just so funny to me that it happened on like my wedding day. I mean, on my wedding day I definitely didn't check my phone or anything on that day. I was like completely just in the moment. I only found out after the fact, right? Because I saw like so many emails coming in. And that was like, yeah, that was kind of a really pleasant surprise when that happened. I don't know, there were like other things that happened like after that. I think like I remember like after we got an influx of customers, there was a period where I was like a little scared. I was like, oh, how am I gonna like contain all of this? How am I gonna like deliver on my promise to so many people? And I remember my promise to myself that like answers get to come to me if I relax. I just need to choose to not block them. And there were several times like where I had to just like, when I find myself freaking out, I went to like lie down on the couch. I was like I had to physically move myself in order to kind of like make sure I'm getting back into that open state. And then when I went back to my desk, an idea popped up, or like somebody would message me something that answered my question. And that just, I would say like that kept happening. I would say like every week something like this happens. Like just I get an idea and I was just, and so so that was kind of so that was an external shift. I mean, I have like some more like big ones. I don't know how much you wanted me to like talk.
I think you could just share them. I mean, they're inspiring to hear and to witness, and then we'll dive a bit into like how you got here, so this is the evidence. This is really just like this stuff works. And when you signed up to work in this program, it wasn't necessarily about the growth that you were looking for. It was a desire to feel more embodied and more calm and have more vitality. But what spurs from that place, from caring for the nervous system, from dropping into the heart, from taking care of limiting beliefs, is growth.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily advertise growth of business in what I share, but that's like the second yummy treat of this work. First yummy treat is you feel good no matter what you do.
Yes.
The second part is that like goodness just flows.
I will say when I feel good no matter what I do, like yes, I still want things. I still have goals. I still want things, but like I'm not like attached to them. Like if I get them, that's great. And if I don't, that's okay because I still feel good anyway. And I think that non-attachment, I mean, that really helps me be a better like business person. But also like, in my personal life too. So, one of the things that happened is like immediately after my wedding, actually, Amanda, you brought this up before the call. I was like journaling about like, I did some yoga thing and I was like journaling about like what came up for me. And this is like the start of our conscious creation part. And I was like, I feel like this life is being birthed from me right now. And like this life essence, and it grows and it like self-sustains on its own. And I said a lot of things about it, but like, I remember mainly what I said was like, oh, this is when we were working on my purpose statement. And I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's like some life that's being like birthed through me. And that's also making me realize that I had a lot of like mother energy that I had kind of like previously. Like mother energy always to me sounded like a self-sacrificing thing, but like in this moment I realized it was like a source of power. And I remember this was like another thing that I could have blocked if I wanted to, but I decided to rest and just see what happens. And I let that, kind of just let that happen. And then like that was the exact same week that I conceived. And and I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks later. And that was so funny because it was like right at the start of conscious creation. And like what is like the biggest like, like most raw form of creation, right? Than birth and then pregnancy and birth. I also did not expect that to happen at all. Like I just went off of birth control that I've been on for like 5 years now. And they, the doctor was like, yeah, like you can try, but it might take a while because like, your hormones are going to have to get regulated a little bit. So like, yeah, so I got my birth control out and I was like expecting it would take like a few months as well, because like, they say like when you're in your 30s, it takes like, the chances of getting pregnant is like 20% or something like that. So I was like, okay, it might take like 4 or 5 months. I could not believe it that like basically immediately after I got it out, I got conceived. I was like, what? That was so
I have
fast.
goosebumps. I know when you told me that, I was
Yeah.
like, this is such beautiful timing. And I know one of your intentions when we started working together was to start a family. Not that that's something that I help with in my,
Yeah.
written work, but all of this kind of plays a role, like personal life flows into work because it's all a state of being, of who we are, of the energy that we're emitting. And you had at that time embodied such this energy of contentment and surrender. Like there was a sense of, I'm okay with where I'm at right now. I choose peace now.
Yes.
And there was no resistance. And it was such beautiful timing. It was like, yeah, it was so wonderful. And I want to talk a bit about this because we explored creation and had dialogue about creation as something that moves through us. So whether it's an actual life form or it's an idea or a business vision or an actual baby, there's some sort of truth to this matter that, things are being birthed from us and it has its own consciousness. It's not just our consciousness. It's kind of like a mesh. There's the consciousness of the being, the vision, the idea, there's us, and then there's the channel, which is kind of a meshed part. So if we hover over it or try to have too much control, we sort of squeeze the life out of it. We don't let it breathe or have its consciousness. So how has your relationship with your work shifted after this sort of contemplation? Like, what does your work need from you? And what do you need from your work to thrive? And as you're this living embodiment right now of growing life within you, I'm kind of curious if you have anything to say on this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. What's very cool was that I started seeing work as a separate entity, kind of like, yeah, with its own consciousness, as you said. And I really apply a lot of like my learnings from relationships to this. And I realized that a lot of it does sort of apply. So like for me, my work, it's really interesting because the relationship I have with my work, it felt kind of like a almost like a parent-child relationship, except this child is about to be an adult. Like this is not a kid. This is like an adolescent, like about to be an adult. Like they're like 17 or 18 at this point, right? Like they can make decisions and they're in a state where they can teach me stuff too. Like, parents are saying they're always learning from their kids. And I'm like, yeah, I'm learning a lot about myself through my work. And one of the things that, my work, we did a lot of journaling on this. And that my work, that was revealed to me as I was journaling is like, when I, try to tap into the consciousness of my work, what it really wants is for me to like stop worrying about it so much. Like what it wants is, one of the things is that it wants the same thing I want. It's like, we're on the same page. Like I want what you want. However, my how is going to be a little different than your how because we are not the same person. And you're going to have to trust me that that I know what I'm doing. And maybe there will be mistakes along the way, but you're going to have to trust me that I can recover from the mistakes and it's still going in the right direction. And we're both going to get what we want, even if it doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like, mom. Like, it had that very kind of like I'm on your side. Like I'm very like, I'm a very reasonable, mature person. I'm like starting to mature into an adult, but like, so get off my back, please. Kind of like that kind of energy. Like, I love you, but get off my back.
Mhm.
Um, and when I kind of think about like what I want out of my work, it's like the same thing on the other side. I also don't want to be really enmeshed with my work. Like, I don't want to be worried about my work 24/7. I don't want, I want work to stay with work. I don't want to be a helicopter parent either. So it's like, yeah, we're on the same page, even here, right? So it's kind of like, um, it's almost like I had like an internal conversation with like a teenager, like a very very mature teenager. So I was like, oh, good, you're like a very mature, responsible teenager. But yeah. So the first thing is like, don't be so attached to the exact how of things or of things. Like, I like I always have a plan, but if it's not going according to plan, it doesn't mean something's wrong. I think like that's like my biggest lesson. It's like, have a plan, because having direction is good, but like having direction provides safety and structure. Like, that's what I found. It serves me and my energy. But if it doesn't go according to plan, then like trust that it's still going in the right direction. As long as you're still, as long as as long as I still remember why I started, right? And what was the purpose. I trust that I'm always going in the right direction, even if things are not going according to plan. And then also trust that the work, I'm gonna learn no matter what. So it's like, as I'm like continuing to work with my business, it's gonna keep teaching me things about how business works, about how about me. Like, I'm constantly learning more about me through the way I interact with my business. And so like, as long as that is happening, like, I don't feel like things are going wrong, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Totally. You so eloquently describe this beautiful relationship we can have with our work. When it's not just our identity, when it's not just our everything, and then we give it some more space to breathe and express itself. And then we can also embody this energy of like surrender, that it gets to express itself, and that we might have this idea or planned thing of how our work, our career, our business is going to go. And if it doesn't go that way, just trusting that it's going the way that it needs to go, and having the belief that everything is always moving in a direction that's the most harmonious for all parties involved. And that shifts the feeling around work. It becomes not this big weight, like we're gripping it and holding it and like kind of being a helicopter parent around it. It's more of like, I trust you out in the world. And there's different stages, and we could do a whole thing about that. There's like the birth of it and then the infant. And you mentioned that your business right now is more in the adolescent stage. And you so, like I said, eloquently shared how you interacted with it in that. So that was really beautiful. You also you also mentioned that as long as you remember the purpose,
Yeah.
then you trust that these smaller actions or these smaller decisions or shifts are just moving in the way that it needs to move. And I love this, because one of the things I work with my clients on is really feeling into their purpose, discovering it, uncovering it, and working with it. Because I think if that's something that we remember every day, we understand our purpose, remember it every day, then we're energetically steering the ship of our lives towards that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it unfolds in ways that we maybe wouldn't understand in our conscious mind, but there's a trust that the wheel to the ship is being held in a certain way. So one of the things that I remember during our first conversation when you reached out to me is that you were desiring to find your deepest purpose. And this, like I said, this sort of reflection is something I offer. So I was excited to do that with you. But what can you say about your relationship to your purpose now that this work has been complete? And we'll talk about purpose statement in a minute, but like, what do you feel like your purpose is, and how has it changed since you started this program?
Well, what's interesting is that when I first started with you, I thought that if I found my purpose, first of all, I thought purpose was something concrete, like so my main business is called Coach Viva, and we help people who want to lose weight do so in a way that's physically and mentally healthy and sustainable. So I could say my purpose is to help people lose weight. or my purpose is to end the obesity trend. Like, it sounds grander. When I came to you, I was like, is this really my purpose? Um, or actually, even sorry, I was even more zoomed in. I thought my purpose would be something more concrete, like I coach people, or like I create YouTube videos. Like I thought purpose was a job. I was like, what is the job that I enjoy doing? I think, like, what is my dream job? Like, that's what I thought it was when I came to you. And I thought, if I found my dream job, like my dream role in the company that I built, um maybe I will have an easier time finally. Right? Maybe I won't burn out. Maybe I'll still enjoy my work and not burn out this time, right? That was kind of the belief there. I didn't really know it at the time that that's where I was going with this. But then after working it through with you, it's so funny because I started feeling ease in my business, even wearing multiple hats. Like, I'm still wearing, like, multiple more than one hat in my business, but like, even when I was wearing multiple hats, I was feeling like the sense of ease and the sense of like belonging in my company, that by the time we went to the conscious creation phase, I was like, I don't really care what my dream job is anymore. Like, I just care that I'm happy, and I'm pretty happy. But and then we did, we worked on like the purpose statement, and I found that, the purpose that came up for me was not a job. It wasn't like something I do, or like something that, it wasn't like something that you put on a job description, right? It was something like, every time I did like this purpose meditations or journaling, it came like all this abstract stuff came up for me, right? And so like, what I eventually came up with is that, like, my purpose is less of what I do and more of like my way of being and relating with the world. And for that reason, I see my purpose in a lot of things that I do. It's not like boxed into like one role. Like the purpose that we workshopping and like ended up coming up with has to do with like, destroying like clearing space for love to shine through. And really, it's like, to me, it's about like destroying things that don't serve you anymore, so that you actually see reality. And then when that happens, then like life can actually be birthed through. And I do that with my clients when I coach them, right? I do that in, as I'm working on my business, I do that to myself all the time. I'm like, okay, what's reality? What am I seeing here? What's story versus what's like actually, in front of me. And that really is like how I live my life and how I converse with the world. And that gives me a very strong sense of purpose. And it leads to doing stuff well, and it leads to achievement, and it leads to all those other things. But those other things are the byproducts. They were not the purpose. And that's kind of my shift there.
Yeah, I remember when I started working with you, I was so excited to get to module 4, because I was like, okay, we can really, after we do nervous system work, heart connection, subconscious patterning work, just helping Lucy focus in towards what her purpose is. And then by the time we got there, it didn't matter to you as much because you had found so much contentment and peace in whatever moment you were in. So I thought that was kind of ironic, like the you had changed by the time we got to this space. And it was still really impactful and really beautiful to do the work with you, but it didn't hold as much weight. Like you didn't need to feel like you were doing something to have worth. You had worth within you, no matter what.
Yes.
Would you be willing to share your purpose statement with listeners?
Oh, sure. Yes. Let me pull that up.
Yeah, it was so beautiful. So purpose statements, they're designed to be, yes, it's the work that you do in the world, but it's also how you live. And I say to clients at the end of every day, if there's just one way that this purpose was fulfilled, however big or small, then that's success, in my opinion. You're living out the energy that you're intending to live, that your soul's here to live. So through a series of reflection and discussion and, closing our eyes and going inward, that's kind of what I can help my clients with.
Yes. Okay, so here's my purpose statement. I am Lucy Liang. I am here to make room for new life by shattering old realities. As I clear space for love, life radiates through me. I am presence. I am life. I am sacred. I am power. I am riveting.
Mm.
I really, really like that.
Oh, beautiful. I love how it ends with I am riveting. You can feel that.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to just really work this into your subconscious mind through repetition and start identifying with it. Because as the subconscious identifies with words like this, then by proxy, all behaviors, all conversations, or not all, I mean, that's dramatic, but like the majority of them will emulate those essences, if that makes sense. So the step one was creating the purpose statement. And then step two was something that I call drafting a sacred vision script. And this is a series of conditions that you hope to manifest in your life. So it could be a specific job, it could be a big life change, but the purpose there is to create clarity. And then step three is working with the energy of that vision through daily meditation and visualization. And this works with the brain and neuroplasticity. It works with the emotions by evoking a certain energy. So in step three, we specifically had you connect with something called the quantum field. And the quantum world is this idea that everything that's physical actually holds mostly space. So each atom, the smallest building block of matter, holds 99.99999% space. And that this spaciousness is not physical matter, but it's potential. It is a waveform. It can collapse into particle form based off of our focus. So in order to create what we want to create, it's important to completely release any identity that we have. And then once you become that no one, then reality can collapse back into what you vision for yourself or what that sacred vision is and according to your purpose. What was your experience like with this? And did you learn anything from the practice or anything you want to share? I mean, it sounds a bit out there. It can sound a bit out there. Some people might be familiar with quantum field work, but I'm curious what it was like for you.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, what I really like got out of that is just that in order to create a new reality, you kind of forget the current one, right? So the new reality, it's external and internal, right? One of the things I remember in the meditation is the prompt to like become no one, become no thing, right? So it's like you forget, you basically have to like forget the external world exists. You have to forget who you are. And then from that can something new shift or something new come through. And I mean, it kind of is very much related to my purpose statement, which is all about clearing, shattering old realities for new things to new life to radiate through. So it really resonated with me, regardless of what the explanation is behind the science explanation behind it. It's like no, that just that concept like really resonates with me. And doing the meditation, it it did help. I would say like I just felt like I was space. Um, and and even when, because as I was going through my early stages of pregnancy, I had I had some morning sickness, I had like nausea. And even when I was doing the meditation during that time, I remember feeling like I was space. And like the sensation of nausea is like a point, like some point within the space of all this other things that is going on around me that I can feel. And but I wasn't like the person who's feeling nausea right now. And I thought that was like really cool and interesting. And I also let go, like when I kind of am doing, not even when I'm doing the meditation, just kind of when I have that concept in mind that it's like for new realities to birth through, you kind of have to just forget about the current one. In those moments where I like kind of like forget the current reality in a way, that's when like I start to believe in possibilities, like the of new things showing, the possibilities of different kinds of things showing up.
Mm.
Um, I'll give you a kind of yeah, like I'll give you an example. I hesitate to share this a little bit, almost I don't know why, but I guess I'm just like because I don't know, because I don't want it to be like saying that everybody will get $17,000 magically in the mail the next day. But here's what happened. We were doing this meditation. You had me write the sacred vision that you were just talking about. And there was one line in there where I was like, I want to make this much a year. Actually, I want to make more than that. I'm updating that sacred vision like next year, I'm sure. But it's like, I'm going to make more. I'm going to make this much, which is already sounds like a lot. And I was like, well, how am I going to make that through my business? Because like I need to reinvest in these. I'm hiring these people. I'm going to pay them. And then I decided that, as I forget the current reality, right? I'm like, forget right now about your business. Forget anything. Forget what you do. Forget your business. Forget whatever. It doesn't matter where the money comes from. And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter where the money comes from. I want to make this much this year. Let's just see what happens. And I don't care where the money comes from. And I think I literally wrote it in my sacred vision because like I didn't want that like it has to come from a certain place to show up again. So I was like, I don't care where the money comes from. And God, I don't remember if it was that week or the week after, but it was like very close to me doing the exercise that I got to check or not check. It was a letter in the mail that said I had $17,000 in unclaimed something. It was like there was a check that my bank had issued for me a long time ago that I didn't claim for some reason. And I have never, like, I've heard stories of this happening to other people. Like, this doesn't happen to me. It happens to people I know, but it doesn't happen to me. And I was like, oh my God, it doesn't matter where the money comes from. Like, I actually don't know where I actually have no recollection of this. I don't know if it's like, maybe I like closed a bank a long time ago and like forgot to withdraw it. I have no idea. I really don't remember. It was in like 2015. But I just remember being like, yeah, I don't care where the money comes from, and it can come from anywhere, and it showed up. Um,
It's
yeah,
amazing. And
yeah,
you said this kind of thing happens to other people, but not me. But
yep,
you were able to release your identity and then it flowed to you. And this is really something for all of us to consider of like how we identify could block that which we desire. So if we identify as like it's just a basic example, let's say that we really want a luxury car, but you've never made a certain sort of money. So every time you think of the luxury car, your identity is like, that's not for me. So you're never going to get the luxury car, or you can over a long period of time of pushing and struggling and striving. Or it's this idea of let me release that identity and become no one and nothing and open up the field for that desire to flow in. In terms of neural pathways, I'd like to try to describe this through the brain too. So it's not just super woo-woo sounding, because I know we have some logical minded people listening to this. If you identify a certain way in your brain, then the connection of the brain, the way that electricity flows through the brain is going to be a certain pattern. And so in the example of this, it's okay, I make this much a year flat and I will never, receive the luxury car. So whenever you see the luxury car, the brain waves are flowing through your brain in a certain pattern that's identifying in a certain way. So you can't think in a way to get you that car. Whereas if you become no one or nothing in a meditation and you lose track of your identity, well, electricity is flowing in a different way in your brain. And then when you envision the car, the neural networks light up in a different way that's not associated with your identity of not being able to receive it. And so you can think in a different way and act in a different way. So that becoming no one, nothing, yes, it's a quantum field technique, but just aside from that, it's rewiring your brain. It's creating more space in your brain to just be different, to be no one, to have a new, fresh start. And the brain is incredibly plastic. So the brain can rewire with intention, with reflection. And that's what I just love working with my clients on. So I love that story, Lucy. I think it's amazing. And one of the things I do with my clients is we keep a miracles log. So when things are happening that feel like they're in alignment with the sacred vision, like, oh, click, this is happening. Oh, this happens. I have my clients keep track of them because it's so easy to just brush through it and just like acknowledge it, but lightly. But I think it's really cool to have this list of evidence of things that, okay, I'm on the right path. This is working. What I'm doing is working, and it's more incentive to continue to show up. So you had a lot of miracles. Do you have like one more maybe that you'd want to share?
Um, let's see. Uh, yeah, that one was, I think, like my first miracle that came up. There were quite a few that was just like within the business, just like people stepping up or like an idea showing up for me that I didn't expect. Kind of like the stuff I was talking about earlier in our discussion. Um, let me see if I can find the miracles log. Actually, I'm trying to pull it up right now. There we go.
I remember you had one of your highest months of sales, I believe, was
Oh
something
yeah,
new.
I had my highest month of sales. That was July. So June was when the video blew up, and then we broke our record for sales. And then July we broke our record again for sales. Funnily, in August we did not break our record for sales, but we did break our record for profit. So basically, June, July, August, we had like we set new, there was a new profit record every single, that has never happened before in our business. Like usually it's like a high month, a low month, right? A high month, a low month. um After June, it was like it just kept going up. Like June was like a huge spike, and then but it's still going up, like at a slower rate, but it's like still going up. And I'm like, oh my God, this isn't falling right now. I mean, and if it falls, fine. Right? I'm like, oh, that'll be interesting too. But it's so funny that, I mean, maybe that should also go in the miracles log, because it's so funny. It's like basically June was the month I decided that, I mean, I got a little scared, and then I decided, you know what, I don't care if it falls. It's like, if it falls, that's okay. I'll figure something, something's gonna work out, right? And then it hasn't fallen at all since then, which is really, really funny. Let's see.
I
Um,
second,
yeah.
Lucy, I want everyone to just pause and listen to what Lucy just said. On her own, she said, if it falls, that's okay too. No big deal. And she's not just saying that, she means that. That's an embodiment. Lucy knows that if the sales fall, she's still happy. She still has peace. And her happiness and her peace is not dependent on her external conditions. And because of that lack of resistance, her business just keeps growing. And this is not an easy thing to do. This is surrender. And that's one of the last, we'll talk about that next. Do you have another miracle pulled up?
Yeah. Okay, so this doesn't, for me, this felt like a miracle, and I'll tell you why. So this was one of my customers sharing that before I make any she said a lot of things, but it's like, I pray before I make any decision, and I prayed for you, and it was like God knew that this is what I needed, and I'm so happy I found you, right? This is one of our customers. And the reason why I put this in the miracles log is that when I actually journaled about this a long time ago, but it came up again, I think in my Sacred Vision script, where I wrote that I want my customers to say, like, my customers are saying that they prayed for me to show up. Well, like, it's not just like, I'm glad I found your program, I'm glad I found you, but it's like, I actually prayed for you. I've been praying for you to show up, and then like you came, and you were exactly, you were what I asked for, right? I don't know why, but in my head, I always just like, I don't know why, but I've always just wanted like customers to say, like, I prayed for you to show up, and here you are. And so like when she said that, I was like, oh, this is what like, I was like, yes, this was in my Sacred Vision script. Like, my script had a script. And then
Yes.
there was another script, which is like, I wanted my team, my coworkers, my employees to say that um, like, I didn't like something about the work. It was like, this is like, I didn't know that work could be this fun until I found you, right? Like, I wanted my employees to feel happy too. And that was something that one of them also said. So I just thought, yeah, like, she never, another one of my employees said that, yeah, she never expected it to happen, like something to happen when she joined a company. And that's kind of like, it was just, to me, like, the fact that they said exactly what I wanted, what I scripted, was, I thought that was really cool.
It's
Um,
amazing.
and I think in my Sacred Vision, I also was like, I want my business to make 1 million. Um, and 1 million annually. And I don't know how, I don't know how I was going to get there. I try to like reverse engineer kind of like a game, like what I think it would look like at the end, like how much we would be paying, like who my team is going to be, my dream team, and how much I would be paying them, and how much I would be paying myself, and how that adds up to 1 million. Like I kind of like divvied it up like that, but I didn't know how exactly I was going to get there. Like I had a vague sense, kind of like doing what we're doing, but do it better, I guess. Like that was kind of my vague sense. And then my business partner, Richa, who is she's like a master strategist. She like messaged me like 2 weeks later with like this game plan for like, okay, here's how we're gonna get in 1 million. And it was like, awesome. Thanks for the how. Like, I mean, this is just one how, right? There's so many different how, there's infinite amount of hows that you can get to 1 million, of course. But like, I really like having a roadmap, even if it doesn't go according to that roadmap. Again, it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel happy. I like having a roadmap, but I think it's like dropping it doesn't need to go according to plan. But just having that roadmap, like I feel so inspired now. I'm like, oh, cool, a roadmap. That's great. Thanks.
And it was created for you.
Yeah, and I didn't ask her to do it. She likes to think about this stuff all the time anyway, right? She created it on her own. She shared it with me, and I was like really happy and grateful for it. That like she figured out the how, or at least she figured out one how of doing it.
One thing I just want to take note of is I'm thinking back to this whole program with you, and you put in work, quote unquote, work in the beginning, meaning you showed up. So I've never had a client just say, I'm going to take 10 days off of work and do a personal retreat and dive into this. And you did. And you went all in the science and magic portal. For listeners, there's work, there's reflection, but the work is really like slowing down. It's doing embodiment practices. It's meditating. It's doing yoga. It's consciously reflecting. And it's just working with the nervous system. There's science lessons that I have my clients watch and stuff, but Lucy, you showed up for everything, and you journaled and you shared. And by the end of this program, you could really just take your hands off the wheel, and all of this goodness was flowing to you. Like you stopped having to do so much because you created this gorgeous, fertile foundation for so much to grow from you. And it's just evidence. The more that you share, and it's happened so fast. It usually happens, but sometimes it'll happen months later, maybe even years later with repetition. But for you, it was nearly instant. Your life took off.
Oh
and you still have this beautiful feeling of surrender. Like it's this lightness, like, okay, this is like, I'm so happy with this and it all gets to be here. And yet if it wasn't, I would still be happy. And it's inspiring for me to witness. These are still things that I'm always working on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know you keep saying you've told me before that it's like it happens so fast, and I'm like, did it really? That's so cool. Like I don't know what fast is, right? So I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. I will say, when I first did this work, like when something feels like it could be better, like, and I think like I really do invest in myself. And when I'm like committed to something, I'm really committed to it. Like if I think there's going to be like big changes that will serve me, I'm like really committed to it. When we first started, it was, the work is to do less work here, but the work is super uncomfortable, is that what I would say. And that's what makes it hard. That's what makes it hard. That's what makes the work, quote, work hard, is that it feels uncomfortable. And I think I needed that retreat for myself too. And I wasn't perfect on the retreat. I just still worked a little bit, right? So, but that was like at the beginning of the program. I had to take that retreat for myself in order to really, I think, absorb the work, because otherwise, I think I had so many habits and limiting beliefs that I think would have gotten in my way, and I thought that was a sacrifice that was necessary to make. Like it would have been worth it, and it was worth it. And I think it also did make the rest of the journey like feel a little bit easier. It was always uncomfortable, but it got less uncomfortable over time. Or rather, you get okay with the discomfort. is how I would say it. Yeah, no, I also really just need to, I mean, I thank you a lot for kind of like, guiding me through this process. Earlier when I was saying that, like, this is the first time my business for 3 months kept, like, the profits kept going up and up and up. Um, there was one time in March, I think. So March, it it we hit another record. We hit a record sales for that month specifically. And I remember being kind of a little bit scared, a little bit panicky. And then you were telling me that um, even if it goes down, let yourself celebrate it right now, right? And I think like I did the things, right? I took a bath, I did the celebration thing. And in April the profits went down again, right? Which was just what it all used to always happen. And I remember just being like, you know what, Lucy, you're gonna be okay with it. You can be okay with this. And then I decided I was just gonna be okay with that. I was like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'll keep doing my thing, and something's gonna work out. And then in June, when basically the spike, like a huge spike happened again, I just went all out to celebrate that. I'm like, yes, I'm scared, but I'm going to celebrate anyway. And I'll I'll let myself feel scared too. Like, that's fine. Like, this part of me gets to be scared. That's fine. But there's a part of me that wants to celebrate, and that's going to happen too. So I like celebrated. And I don't think I even thought about what if it goes down actually at that point. And then it didn't. But again, if it goes down, it goes down. That's totally fine too. But I think that was really what I think prepped me for June spike. And I always feel like the so this is kind of just my belief, is that the universe will give you the stuff when you're ready for it. Like, it's not going to give you a bunch of things if you're like not ready for it. Like, if I got the same growth in June that I did in March, I would have I don't know if I would have been able to like take a bath. Even with Amanda telling me like, you can celebrate, like maybe I needed like a small spike in March first and have it go down again, and then the big June one, right? Like, maybe that's just what needed to happen. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm okay if things don't go according to plan, because I'm like, maybe I wasn't ready to handle it yet. Maybe this is like exactly what I need right now. And then when I'm ready to handle it, then the thing will come, then, or the expected, what I thought would come, or better, right? Yeah.
I was going to ask you to talk about surrender, but you just did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. That is
you're
what it is,
smiling.
trusting the universe, which is super hard. It was so uncomfortable. I think that was like the biggest, yeah, if not the biggest, one of the biggest like shifts for me. I think in one of our discussions, I was talking about how like I trust my husband 100%, even if he makes decisions that I don't agree with necessarily. Like, we're always committed to the same goals, even if like the how of how he wants to do it is not the same as. So even if I don't agree with how he's going to do something, I trust him that if he says doing this will get to this endpoint, like I trust that will happen. I trust that. And I don't think, and then I didn't trust, but, and then you Amanda, you were telling me, there was like one of your videos that was talking about this too, about how you kind of like, you also trust the universe to be like that kind of partner for you, basically. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have that at all. Like, I don't trust the universe. Like, I think yeah, like that it knows what's best for me. And I think that was a belief that was kind of like a leap of faith belief that I just had to choose to believe and just see what happens. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm like such a logical, practical minded person. Like, I really am. But like sometimes I'm just like, you have to just choose to believe a belief that will serve you and see what happens. And because the way you've been believing what you are believing ain't working for you anyway. So like, why not try it and see what happens? And that's what I did.
Hmm.
And I think that's surrender right
That's
there.
surrender. That is surrender. And it is so hard for many of us, especially high achievers, to let go and to surrender and to trust that there's something greater at play. and to release into that, so that when things don't go according to the plan of the mind, of the personality, that there's something bigger at play that will be revealed in a later way, or it may never be. We may never see how. And it can be one of the hardest things. There are so many nuggets and good sharings from you over this, not just this conversation, but the past four, the whole four, not the past four, the past three in this one. And I just thank you so much for being willing to share your time and energy with me and with everyone who tunes in. There's so many people who identify as workaholics, as high achievers, as high performers, who will listen to this and will get something from it, and it will hopefully impact their lives, however big or small that may be. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you want to share with listeners that you wish maybe you would have heard 6 months ago? Any words of encouragement? Or
I don't know if I have like one thing that I would share, but what I would tell myself 6 months ago, if she would listen, is if you're okay with being not okay, like I would say that's like as far as that was like my starting point, when everything, all the good stuff just snowballed from that point on. The being okay with not having things go the way, like if you can get yourself into that state, you always have access to it no matter what happens. It makes you invincible to anything else that's going bad in your life. I mean, I guess unless you're like actually in survival mode, right? But it's like, I don't think people listening to this podcast would be. Um, like, and that's when you can actually experiment with letting go and surrendering. And that, because that's how, I think that's how I had to do it. Like I try to do the surrender thing in the past, but because there was always that not being okay when things don't turn out according to plan, I could never fully have done that. And I think it was only after I was okay with things not being okay that I was able to surrender and let go. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is I'm still okay, right? So so that's kind of that's like so much easier said than done. Like that's just so much easier said than done. Which I think that's what the program that, you know, your program is all about. It's getting you to that point where you can be okay with things not being okay.
what a beautiful way to end. Wow. If listeners want to get in touch with you or even work with you in your business, well, how can they do that? How can they follow you or interact with you?
I think the best way to find me is you can put my personal YouTube channel down. It is it's just Lucy Liang. It's just my name right now. My website is lucyliang.com. And if you want to work with me, if people want to work with me on health and fitness or weight loss, that's my main business right now. They can also find me on YouTube as Coach Viva. So it's youtube.com/c/Coach Viva. So you can also find my other stuff there too.
Awesome. We will link all of that in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast, or in the description if you're tuning in on YouTube. And once again, Lucy, it has just been a joy and an honor to guide you through this process. You inspire me after every session and every conversation. So thank you.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I hope like people can get some value out of this, and like best wishes to everyone, to you and everyone else too. Thank you.